Salute Knicks Nation. The streets are buzzing. What's good, everyone? Welcome in to tonight's stream. Let's break down the latest as the New York Knicks have a new big man on the way, coming in for Summer League, training camp, and we'll see what else. But James Naji confirmed to be in New York City right now, working out at the Knicks facility, ready to impress in Summer League as they bolster their big man depth. What is Leon Rose cooking up? Let's talk about it tonight as well. The Knicks draft prospects. What are we going to look for, man? The draft is next week, and we've got the mock consensus. Let's talk about it, guys. Q&A live stream tonight. Welcome in. Great to have everyone with us. Salute to Knicks Nation. CT, your host. Great to have you with us. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Let's break down the latest of the Knicks coaching search, as well as Taylor Jenkins, Mike Brown have officially interviewed with the front office as well. So we're getting closer to hearing what is up and who is going to be the next Knicks head coach. We'll talk about some free agents that are rumored to be signing back with some of their clubs and who the Knicks could target. But the story of the day, man, big news, busy day for me. Obviously, I put the video out earlier today. Has come through reports overseas in Spain that the Knicks draft stashed player James Naji, who was acquired by the Knicks in the cat trade, is officially put word that he wants to come over now. And the wheels have been in motion for a little bit, and he is now officially confirmed to be in New York City, confirmed by the New York Post. Right after I put out the video earlier today, man, the Knicks major aggregators went into overdrive as well. But you guys already know, you get the Knicks buzz coming from here as well. And I appreciate you guys, and more coming. But obviously, I'm excited because obviously I feel like, with a new coach on its way, obviously we're looking at a prospect where, the Knicks roster can be utilized fully with the depth. And I really feel like Karl-Anthony Towns needs to play more at the four. And, movements like this suggest that Leon Rose, the front office, they're thinking the same. You got to beef up the big departments. Mitchell Robinson will be back. I don't think he's going nowhere. Ariel Huckporty coming off the meniscus procedure as well. But James Naji, we're going to go through everything that he brings. The physical profile is just an absolute beast. What he's been doing overseas, why is this happening, and all of that as the main talking point of tonight's show. Then we'll dive in later to the coaching updates, and then we'll talk about the consensus mock draft prospects for next week as well. I see you in the building. Buzzer beater, Johnny, what's good, Prezi, Georgie, Coach, and Daniel Berry in the house. Prezi says, CT, I believe Leon, the Don, is going to do Don things. We don't need a big swing. We need a better bench, not because we don't have one, but to end the narrative. Re-sign Shamet and sign Boucher from Toronto. Already the wheels are in motion, my friend. And yeah, the front office has been working overdrive, behind the scenes. And yeah, we're going to start here. We dive in. Obviously, last year on the eve of training camp, Karl-Anthony Towns, big swing. Julius Randle, Devo going to Minnesota. For the last 12 months, there's been debate. Who won the trade? I think it worked out well for both teams. We'll see what happens with Julius in Minnesota. But with Cat specifically, I mean, just incredible offensive player. Issues defensively, we know, but wasn't put in the best position, I think, to get the best out of him. I think playing Cat at the four was really important. But rewind back to that trade, man. The forgotten element was James Naji coming in via the Charlotte Hornets because the Knicks had to send multiple sign and trade salary players to Charlotte. And by law of the CBA, when you're sending a team players, they have to send you something back. So Charlotte sent us back the draft rights of James Naji, who was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets in the 23 draft. James Naji is a player that has been spending the last few seasons overseas. As we pull up his profile, physically, man, he is an absolute man. 7 feet in shoes, 7'7" wingspan, 9'4" standing reach. And this was at the combine, 2-3 years ago. But basically, the New York Knicks obviously had a log jam, but now's the time. Him and his agents officially requested to pursue the NBA dream with the New York Knicks. His contract would have an NBA out clause. I'm sure they'll figure it out. But as we get into the actual news, is that it's been confirmed by the New York Post that James Naji is in town. And speaking to his agent, Jared Schwartz of the Post, says he's already in New York, been working out at the Knicks facility, expects to be at Summer League with a chance to make the roster. And more specifically, the quote was, the plan is to do Summer League. Then the next plan is to explore a signing to be on the real roster, depending on how Summer League goes. But obviously Leon Rose is looking at a player that could be signed for $1 million for the second round pick exception, which is basically half of the half of the vets minimum exception. And so the Knicks are going to save some money. They're going to add a potential depth piece, possibly even a rotation guy. We'll find out. But man, this guy is carved out of wood right now, and just his physical profile, as we're going to look at some highlights now. Can switch his feet, plays drop coverage, really disciplined, is a disciplined defender. And his stint overseas had mixed results, but he's 21, still very young, and he was the second youngest prospect in the 2023 draft. So he hasn't really aged much. He's still very young, despite being drafted 3 years ago. But obviously his strengths and weaknesses we'll dive into as well. But I was, excited to hear this news. Let us know how you feel. Knicks Nation has been buzzing since this is coming out. But obviously, I think it comes down to we need some front court depth. It looks like Precious Achiuwa is not going to be back. And obviously, Karl Anthony Towns needs some more guys to play next to him, right? Foul trouble is going to be a thing. Mitchell Robinson hasn't played a full season in a long time. Huck Porty's just coming off the meniscus. This will be his sophomore season. And I think, the New York Knicks front office is onto something. Obviously, when they acquired James Naji, but to get him in now is the right time, I feel. Also, he's been working with Serge Ibaka, Spanish legend and center. Serge been mentoring James Naji throughout his whole, combine experience and the draft steps. And obviously also overseas, he was with Girona, one of the Spanish clubs in the league over there. The president, Marc Gasol, president of Girona club, Marc Gasol has been a guy that has, he was responsible for getting James Naji over there, right, and making it happen. As I pull this up, been getting guidance. So 2 great mentors for James overseas. It don't get no better than centers in the name of Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol. So let's see how it plays out. I'm excited for Summer League. Best believe that. Now we're going to have arguably a full Summer League starting 5 of potential Knicks roster players with Tyler Kolek, Kevin McCullough, Pacome Dardier, James Naji, and Ariel Hukporti as well. Prezi says he will be our Duran for cats that were made. We didn't trade him. Yeah. Danny Lander says, reminds me of Antonio McDyess. Yeah. Darren, what's good? I see you, James, not so high on the move. Hopefully you can persuade your opinion on that. But the Knicks got to fill out their roster, man. They've got to fill out the roster, and we're going to look at some of these highlights, man. This is a few years ago. We'll look at some more recent highlights, but Tyler Metcalf talking about how disciplined he is as a defender, and that's what we need. A guy that's going to stay out on the floor, patrol the paint, can switch, can come out on the perimeter as well. Good pick and roll defender, incredible wingspan. You see, you get the block there. Tools, athleticism, and we need more athletes, guys. We need more size. We did get pushed around throughout stages of last season. Bullied against certain lineups, and I'm done with that. It's time to move Karl Anthony Towns to the four permanently, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people feel the same. He's always getting his fingertips on those lobs. Great deterrent with that 7'5" wingspan. But also he can shuffle his feet and is mobile for a guy of that size and position. Obviously, he's not that heavy, so he does move really lightly. And I think Summer League, look, if I had to make a prediction, I think he'll end up at training camp, at least. I mean, if he does enough at Summer League to show that he could be a guy that could be on a two-way training camp, they'll decide after training camp. Obviously, he could be on a two-way, he could be on a second-round pick rookie exception, which is only $1 million. He could be the 15th man. But like I said, we need some bigs, because Cat, foul trouble. Mitch, durability questions, and also, Ariel Huckporty, who's only been here, for a cup of coffee. So I was kind of looking at a lot of free agents, Al Horford, Mo Wagner, looking at some bigs, but maybe we could focus that attention on some other areas to look at as well, as we will tonight. We'll talk about the latest free agency rumblings. But this is the kind of roster that we're looking at right now. A lot of young players on the bench. If Taylor Jenkins or Mike Brown get the head coaching job, they are reportedly more open and obviously on past experience to play more deeper rotation. So, I'm feeling the breeze right now. I'm feeling that breath of fresh air with a new coach coming in, and hopefully our guys can get more minutes off the bench. Go 9, 10 deep, 11 deep sometimes. Rise says squad. Says facts, tighten the bench up and run it back. Yeah, continuity's king, man. Like, look at the Indiana Pacers, man. No one thought that they could do what they're doing. As much as I hate the Pacers, you gotta just tip your cap and say, all right, they're doing something right. They're playing young players. Look at Obi getting minutes. He couldn't get minutes under Thibodeau, but that's what coaching is all about. It's about empowering your players, give them confidence, all of that. I don't want to get into the whole story that came out with Austin Rivers, talking about not receiving a great welcome from Thibodeau. That's old news. We already know the way Thibodeau behaves and sort of looks upon players that aren't his type of guys. Evan Fournier had a falling out with Kemba Walker as well. Where obviously a lot of these players aren't Tibbs kind of guys, but that was the issue that the front office also see, right? They're constantly looking for talent, and it's difficult when you're always looking for Tibbs guys only. Now we can just look for quote unquote versatile guys, ball players that can play different positions. They could thrive in different areas. They could, you could throw their strengths into the mix, try to hide their weaknesses, etc. So we'll see how it plays out, man. I think we're moving in a more modern spectrum, as an organization now. These versatile guys is going to be big. And if Naji pans out, then I think we don't really need to look at bigs in free agency because we'll have 4 centers on the roster. We could look at, get Tyus Jones, get point guard, ball handling, shooting, Gary Trent, top of my list. Luke Kennard, I see James Edwards of The Athletic putting him at the top of some of the Knicks' interest in free agents. Keon Ellis is a dog defensively. I think we need more of those kind of guys on the perimeter, fam. What's up, Julian? I see you. Great to see you guys. Cardiac says, first priority is to extend Mikal, even if he doesn't want to, and then wants to test free agency, then focus on trading him. Yeah, one thing I want to get into tonight, and there's a name that I really like, and he's not a free agent yet, but he's a free agent in 1 year's time, and there's talk that his club could be looking to trade him. Similar kind of pickup to the Desmond Bane trade that caught people off guard. And I really feel like this player would really complement the Knicks. And spoiler alert, he's out in the East. So I want to talk about him. What's good, AP, Marvin? Great to see everyone in the building. The story of the day, James Naji coming over in New York City right now, working out with the Summer League guys. And it's going to be great for these young guys to get together, develop some chemistry. These could be some future rotation players on the Knicks for years to come, taking us hopefully to that promised land along with the vets here. But yeah, some more highlights. Look at that elite lob threat. James Naji has a good basketball IQ. Defensively is his bread and butter. Offensively doesn't offer too much yet outside of the lob. But look, I'm looking at a depth piece, guys. I'm not looking at a guy that's going to, play 25 minutes a night. Obviously, it's a long season. It's a grind. If you can develop your prospects, that gives you a great position to be able to build for the future under this second apron and maybe trade one of the veterans, in years to come. If you end up hitting on Pacome Dardier, Kolek, McCullough, Huck Porty, or James Naji, that allows you the opportunity to trade one of the veterans at some point and, save some money, spend that money in other areas as well. So now's the time the Knicks have to really make rotation pieces out of some of these young prospects. Assistant coaches get to work, continue to develop these guys. And look, he's going to have great, vets around him with Cat, with obviously Mitchell Robinson. Huck Porty's been here for 1 year as well. And James has played overseas for 4 seasons now. He's got all the tools in the world to succeed. We'll see if he can put it all together for Summer League. But outside of that, great to get the confirmation from the New York Post that he's currently in New York City already, and we will see him in Summer League. I like the fact that he's been with, legends like Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol. We'll see how much he has developed. He actually has played 1 Summer League, so you can find some highlights of his first season Summer League with the Charlotte Hornets as well. There were some eye-opening plays, as you expect, and he's going to be a guy that could be a fan favorite, really early, man. He's in great shape, according to his agent as well, just coming off a back injury. His agent has also confirmed that he's in healthy condition and ready to go for Knicks Summer League. And just an intriguing prospect. Originally from Nigeria, and obviously coming in, picked up basketball at a later age, but is definitely, been a guy that ever since he was drafted 31st, he had a lot of draft analysts, really excited to see what he can bring. And they're going to be excited to see him in Summer League. I know our friends over at No Ceilings, Tyler Rucker, tweeted out his excitement to be able to see James Naji in Summer League as well. With his agent and himself, his eyes are on a real roster spot. So the plan is, from both sides, according to the Post, is to play Summer League, and then it's 50-50. After that, depends how he does, with eyes to make the regular roster spot. Original reporting coming from Jared Schwartz of the New York Post. So I'm excited to see this guy. AP says, I want to see what this team is going to look like under a different coach. Coaches make a difference in the NBA. Great point, man. Appreciate you for mentioning that, because, man, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I feel like we could get more out of this roster, specifically, and obviously in the future rosters, talent is in the eye of the beholder as well. Look at Carlisle, throwing guys out there at us in the playoffs. We only unwrapped DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet until later in the postseason. It was a little bit too little, too late. So yeah, you got to be ahead of the curve, fam. You got to be willing to empower your guys. And with that said, as I pull up the updates for the New York Knicks coaching search, we have official confirmation from Mark Stein and also his team, Jake Fisher, reporting from the Stein line that Mike Brown has officially interviewed for the job already yesterday. Taylor Jenkins was the first interview. That was at the beginning of the week. So what are we, like Thursday night? We should start to hear some news on how those interviews went. And as I spoke on, like, Taylor Jenkins is a younger-minded coach. He's very pro, playing guys, extended minutes, extended rotation, and utilizing his roster. Offensively as well, very creative. Was forced some changes and things got messy in Memphis. Mike Brown brings that experience, 4-time championship assistant coach under Steve Kerr, Coach LeBron, Kyrie, Hall of Famers. He'll hit the ground running. I think there's strengths to both of these guys. I think Jason Kidd is still, the Knicks' preferred target, but obviously, things don't seem to be possible. The fact that the Dallas Mavericks just aren't willing to play ball. So if I'm had to guess, we haven't really heard any serious other candidates interview yet. So if I had to guess, I really feel like it's out of these two guys. And I think the fact that Taylor Jenkins was the first interview, maybe you tap into that, you lean into that to think that I think Taylor Jenkins could be the leader in the clubhouse. I also know Chris Persianen, Clutch Points, that was his perspective, that Taylor Jenkins is the leader in the clubhouse. I think Jason Kidd, though, until he gets his extension, the door still remains open for a J Kidd. Not as likely. Johnny Bryant, unlikely as well, according to Ian Begley. I think the Knicks want experience. They want someone who's been in a deep postseason run, coached some big players, big personalities. I think Mike Woodson's here for, support, possibly as an assistant coach. But I think the two lead guys in the clubhouse, Taylor Jenkins, Mike Brown. But the Knicks are getting everybody paid, man. Ime Udoka got his extension reported today. Billy Donovan, the Chicago Bulls, got his extension as well. So the Knicks are doing a lot of favors for agents. That's going to look kindly, hopefully, at some point in the future, right? It's a very small family in the NBA fraternity. And I think the New York Knicks, whilst they might be pissing off some higher-ups at rival clubs, agents-wise, they're also helping out. But as I mentioned, Jason Kidd still has not got an extension. So I think There's still mutual interest. Maybe they're waiting for a domino to fall. But what do you guys think? I'd bite the bullet and just take Taylor right now. Take Taylor Jenkins. Cardiac says it was Tibbs' way or the highway, and he got the highway. James L says, yeah, Jarvis Walker, Ben Shepherd, even Thomas Bryant, they all played. Yep, Tony Bradley. Yep. Johnny says Mr. Naji is a great nickname. Props. Salute to you in the chat, buzzing right now. You guys are the legends. Smash that like button. AP says Mitchell Robinson doesn't move like that. I think, yeah, Mitch has lost a little bit of his quickness once he bulked up. James Nnaji is more of a lengthier, sort of rangy guy. But I think as he gets older, he's only 21. You know, he's gonna bulk up as well. But both of them as the drop centers. My biggest thing is, guys, Karl Anthony Towns. He just can't be trusted at the 5, man. He's either gonna foul out, or you know, it's going to be Swiss cheese. You know, as they put Brunson and Cat into a lot of actions, that's going to be the focus of the other teams. So we need to stock up with some bigs first. I like us to tick that box. Then we can focus on point guards and wings, I think, in free agency and the draft, right? As I mentioned, yeah, Jake Fisher was able to confirm that Mike Brown has got the interview confirmed as well. One of my top targets, Gary Trent, seems to be trending towards returning to the Milwaukee Bucks. Unfortunately, Bucks realm is highlighting that the ownership would like to keep Gary Trent to a multi-year deal, possibly around the $8 to $10 million range, right? That would be a solid deal for the Milwaukee Bucks for Gary Trent. Unfortunately, guys, unless we free up some money via trade, we can only offer Gary Trent the $5.7 million exception. And even that's a squeeze. That's the reason we need to sign guys like James Nnaji, Kevin McCullough, some veteran minimum guys, enabled to free up as much money as we possibly can. But that would be a loss for me, man. That would be one of my top targets. But if that's the case, we move on to the next. I like the names of Luke Kennard. I like that name. I like Jake LaRavia, Sam Merrill, Landry Shamet, of course, priority number 1. I think, like Cardiac says, bring Landry back. Well, Cardiac actually said, yeah, McCall's extension. But yeah, you definitely got to bring Landry back. I know he would be, you know, in favor of returning to the New York Knicks. We'll see how that plays out. But the name I mentioned before, guys, Chicago Bulls guard Kobe White, Knicks killer. This is a guy that there's not a lot of buzz coming up right now, but I'm ready to start that buzz. Kobe White is a guy that I think personally makes a lot of sense for the New York Knicks. Elite three-point shooter right now, elevating his game. The Bulls, he got him on a steal on a 3-year, $33 million deal. He's only got one more year remaining on that deal. They're about to pay Josh Giddey $30+ million. Reports coming out that the Bulls won't be able, or might not really, you know, like to consider paying both of these guys. So one of them is going to be available. Looks like they might tie down Josh Giddey. Just reading the tea leaves. Kobe White could be available via a trade or free agency in 1 year's time. For me personally, I really like what he offers in terms of the three-point shooting above the break. I mean, that threat, he can swing a game in like 4 minutes, 3 minutes, drill a couple threes on you like we saw against us. He can handle as well. He would be able to relieve Jalen Brunson of some ball handling duties. Like I said, he might not be that expensive. He might be the best player that's not an all-star that's available. like a Desmond Bain. And I've got to be honest, from what I'm getting from Mikal Bridges, like if it was up to me, I would prefer Kobe White. I just think he provides a lot more on offense. He might not be gettable. Like I said, the Bulls might, tie him down. But yeah, he's a player that I would love, like, to bring in defensively. Right, obviously, not a great defender, but obviously you could stagger lineups. You could play him together with Deuce McBride a lot. You could play Brunson and Deuce McBride. You could stagger these guys' minutes. But like I said, I know I see Keith saying the Knicks can't afford him via trade, fam. Free agency, we've got no chance. But if we're hesitant to extend Mikal Bridges, right? I would offer Mikal Bridges up in a trade. If we are hesitant, basically it comes down to this for me, and I know everyone is going to see it differently. I respect people's opinions. I'm a little bit worried about paying Mikal Bridges 30, 35 million because like I didn't see something that he does elite, right? He's not an elite pull-up three shooter anymore. His defense wasn't elite. What's he doing? He's failing to finish at the basket. He's fading away. He's not really, seeking contact, those kinds of things. Whereas I know, like, Kobe White is a legit sniper from three, him next to Brunson and with Cat on the floor, it'll be lethal. But like I said, if the Bulls don't want to pay him and it could be a sign and trade, I would give up Mikal. That's me personally. I take the player that has an elite skill set. I'm happy with Mikal. I think we could get more out of him. But that's a swap I would do, man, every day and twice on Sunday. As we've seen, I mean, the guy can drill 8 threes in a quarter. We don't have somebody on the team that can do that right now. Not named Cat. And, Kobe White's ascending as well. So, yeah, if I'm the Bulls, I think it'd be foolish to let him go. But yeah, that's the name people aren't talking about that I think the Knicks should be looking at. But I can also reveal the Knicks, as you see, had a private workout with Kobe White prior to the draft process. The Knicks were big fans. Also, he's repped by CAA. So keep a lookout for that throughout the season, even as a trade deadline acquisition. The Bulls are notoriously cheap. Like I said, they might have to choose between Josh Giddey, Kobe White. And I know which one I would prefer on this squad, right? As CAA repped. Building Blocks says bring back Dante. That could be a more realistic option. As I seen today, reports Chris Persianen that the Knicks had dialogue at the trade deadline to look at ways to possibly bring Dante back in the summer. Obviously, they had to wait 12 months until they can bring Dante back. But the time has now come where they can bring Dante back. Let's see if he's going to be in the KD trade. That would be very, very interesting. Buzzer Salute says Bridges is crazy wanting OG money. We'll see. We'll see. I haven't heard a concrete report to see what ballpark Bridges is looking for. All I'm going to say is, for me personally, from what I saw, I'd be hesitant. I think I'd rather a guy that brings something that's elite. Like I said, he does a couple of things good, but inconsistent. I need that 3-point ball back, man, from Mikal Bridges in the worst way. If he can find that shot, then I'm happy to pay him 30 mil. If he can find that 3-point shot. But just some quick nostalgia for y'all. I saw this on the timeline, and back in the day, 2016, when the New York Knicks officially had scrimmage footage of training camp, man, how nostalgic is that? You see Billy Hernan-Gomez, Ron Baker, not from the squad perspective, but just how good would it be if the Knicks, up their content in terms of the pre-draft process, training camp look-ins. I mean, we used to get this on the regular, man. We used to get like 3-minute scrimmage footage. You see Luke Cornett, Miles Plumlee, Marshall Plumlee. You see Justin Holiday. Man, it was awesome. And then this one here, man. You see full workout videos of these guys, man. This was a throwback to KP. You see D Rose. Man, D Rose looking svelte. Very, very young. You see Melo, Lance Thomas in this one. Now's the time where we're contending, we're competing. We've got a great squad, man. We need to get this kind of footage during training camp just to keep us hype, I feel. Let's hope, man. We need more than just the roommates podcast. You see, look at this. I mean, it's a shame that the team was bad back then, that you got to see this kind of footage. When the team is great, we don't get this kind of footage. I think something's got to change. So Chris Salute says, if he does stay on the team, Bridges should be coming off the bench along with Hart, mainly for defensive purposes. I feel like if he does come back, I think the new coach will be open to experimenting with lineups. Even if he starts, I'm cool with that. But you can stagger a lot of these lineups. Look at the plus-minus data and play different guys in their best, suited lineups. Like Deuce McBride, he has to play next to Brunson, right? Point of attack defense. Bridges was struggling, at certain points. As we're about to pivot to the next segment, guys, we've got the NBA draft, man. Like, what is it? Like less than a week away. Basically, the second round is going to be on the second day. So it's basically a week from now. And I've got the consensus mocks all lined up for y'all with the 50th pick. The Athletic says we should look at a Rocco Zakarski. I'll talk about him. ESPN says Lachlan Olbrich. Both of those guys, big men out of Australia. I'm familiar with their games. Bleacher Report, a power forward out of Serbia. A 6'11 guy, Markovic. Can shoot, can dribble. A very versatile power forward. Kind of like the combo forward mold. Yahoo says Janai Broom, a back down big man that can patrol the paint, ambidextrous with both hands, finishing around the basket, dominant college player. CBS also says we should look at Markovic out of one of the big clubs in Serbia, Mega. NBA.com says we should look at the Villanova connection with power forward Eric Dixon. That's got some skills, getting downhill, finishing in traffic, a Julius Randle mold type player. I think he would give us some offensive versatility at the power forward. Precious Achiuwa didn't give the Knicks much offensively, as well as these other centers on the roster. They don't give the Knicks as much versatility, in terms of offense, and finishing around the basket. Right, Huck Porty. I think he's got some some skills that he can showcase. I'm looking forward to seeing summer league. With that, everyone was young there. Says AP. Yeah, for real. Buzzer says the Knicks need to do a training camp preseason reality show like the Cavs did. As long as it's edited, so there's no headlines coming out of it. I'll be all for that, fam. I do think that there will be some options on the table. I don't know if there's going to be a major trade in terms of Mikal Bridges, OG, but I do think that the Knicks will listen. right? One thing that they like to do, guys, due diligence. They will be in a lot of trade conversations. It doesn't mean they're going to pull the trigger, but if you can improve the squad, you have to listen, right? I've already talked about my thoughts on OG, right? As Cardiac gives his thoughts, OG isn't a $40 million player, not even close. I understand where you're coming from, Cardiac. I would disagree slightly because of this new day and age. I think 40 million ain't what it used to be. You know, the cap is going up. But I do think offensively, the new coach should feature OG a lot more. You know, I think we could get more out of him. You know, he shouldn't just be a corner guy that's known as a defensive specialist. You know, he played great offensively when Bronson was out. So I think we need to tap into that. J Dub says Markovic is an elite young talent. Yeah, I think there's a possible steal there. I've seen some comparisons to Pokashevsky, but he's more mature, he's more filled out. I feel like he's a guy that is worth looking at, you know. Unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of reports in terms of who the Knicks have worked out, who they haven't. I mean, the Knicks beats on holiday right now, you know. Respect to those guys on their grind, but, you know, hopefully we can get some more news out of these guys. I mean, with today's major news, I mean, not going to toot my own horn, but basically, you know, all the Knicks beat, all the Knicks major aggregators, they all follow me. And anytime I drop something that's untapped, they definitely jump on it. So you guys already know, you guys are locked in with Knicks Buzz. But definitely there's more to come. Keep it locked in. With the James Nnaji news today, man, I got the news out of Spain and I was on it, dropped the video. Next thing you know, within 15 minutes, there's reports coming out of Sports Illustrated, reports coming out of New York Post, reports coming out of major publications and aggregators. None of these people knew about the James Nnaji news. They got it from Knicks Buzz, you know, so it is what it is. We're going to keep going on our grind with this one. Moses Brown, you know, that could be a guy that the Knicks look at for a two-way as well. But yeah, Cardiac, to your point about OG, that's the reason I spoke on last show about looking at a trade. Like, I think OG is great. He serves his purpose. He earns his paycheck. I got no issues with OG Anunoby in terms of staying on the squad. What I'm looking at in terms of an OG in the future, as he turns, 29 next season, he stayed healthy last season, you know, to his credit. However, when is the time when you look at, okay, like, we're strapped up against the second apron, we're not getting as much out of him offensively as we could. He's a defensive specialist. Is $42 million as that salary goes up to $50 million as his contract goes? Is it worth exploring a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1? And maybe you can get back, you know, multiple pieces. I think the same could be said for McCall, and the same could be said for Mitchell Robinson. Now, I don't want to lose their skill sets, but if you can replace their skill sets with more depth, I think that's worth looking into. For example, like Mitchell Robinson, once again, I would love to keep Mitch. Hope he stays, but I would explore what you can get. You know, do your due diligence. Example, you know, the LA Lakers, man, they're in dire need of a big man. You know, maybe you could sell high. You know, you could get Dorian Finney-Smith. You could get Jared Vanderbilt. I know they're not going to give up Austin Reeves, but, you know, you could maybe get a couple of pieces. The same for OG Anunoby. That's where the front office has really got to get creative, fam. But as we talk about the Lakers blockbuster sale, With no major moves, this is my starting lineup on opening night, fam. Run it back. Run it back with the same starting five in the playoffs. Mitchell Robinson has to start. You have to be playing a centre next to Cat, in my opinion. I'm done with seeing Cat at the 5. I mean, it's such a disadvantage in terms of a mismatch on defense, right? Whatever he's going to score on offense, we're more than likely going to give up. And so you've got Hakpority, you got James Naji, it's looking like, and so yeah, start Mitch. Defensively, it's great. It worked out. Minnesota showed us the blueprint with Rudy Gobert, and I think that it helps Cat. You could hide Cat on power forwards defensively, right? It's not so much of a getting exposed with Cat guarding 4s. He can hide on those kind of guys, and he can move his feet better. He's less likely to pick up those silly fouls. And so, yeah, that's my starting 5 for opening night, guys, if there's no major moves. And then I flick over to the bench. This is what our bench is projected to look at right now, based on reports, based on contract situations. I mean, if the good thing is, if Mitch's starting, you got Josh Hart coming off the bench in a more comfortable role. I would bring back Landry. You got Hakpority there as well. Hopefully the new coach trusts him and plays him 10, 15 minutes. You got Deuce. You got Pacome Dardier under contract. The Knicks front office has to have a clear plan for Pacome Dardier. Otherwise, trade him. If he doesn't play, he's wasting a roster spot and he's wasting salary. Have a clear plan for Pacome Dardier. And I think hopefully on Summer League, we can see him showcase what he can do. Marjon Beauchamp, I like his potential. Hopefully we can keep him around. Kevin McCullough as well is a two-way wing, 6'6". Theoretically, he could factor into the rotation if he's healthy as well. You got Tyler Kolek. Again, front office has to have a clear plan with the coaching staff, and I would bring back DeLon Wright if he's open to being a more mentor role, being the third string, injury replacement kind of guy. He's not too old. He's 32 or 33, but a defensive-minded point guard. So that's our depth right now, guys. We are going to have a couple of veteran minimum spots to fill, or we could use the $4.7 million exception. And I would look into, from first preference, I would look at Gary Trent, but it looks like, Milwaukee's going to really try to get him back. Luke Kennard, I would see what's up with him. I think he's CAA. Do you want to take the 5.7, come over and make a name for yourself, be a legend with the Knicks playoff run? I would look at Tyus Jones, definitely point guard experience. Don't know what that means about Kolek. Again, you're going to have to make a decision. Maybe you find a trade partner. But Keon Ellis, obviously, there was a little bit of turbulence with him and Mike Brown. So that's a storyline to look out for. Look, I do think Taylor Jenkins is probably, the most likely candidate to get the job, but I can't say that I know for sure. I think Mike Brown is in with a shot. But I do like Keon Ellis's defense. He's tenacious. Again, I'm a little worried about Mikal Bridges. The guy plays every game, but how hard does he play? How hard does he play? Look, the playoffs, he showed up in some big moments. So that I think the jury is still out on Bridges, but he did quiet some of that noise in the playoffs. Unfortunately, the 3-point shooting wasn't what we hoped for as well. Webb, what's good? Says Watson got to go. Yeah, I think James Naji should take his spot. Buzzer says CT over Windhorst. I got you. Salute. Peace. Um, Webb says, remember, to buy the Knicks is not only the Knicks, but it's way more involved. So I would say it's got to be 20 bill. Yeah, so speaking to some people, guys, with the Lakers selling for 10 bill, the Lakers don't own their arena. They rent. The Boston Celtics as well. Well, the last team that sold don't own their arena either. The New York Knicks, James Dolan, owns Madison Square Garden as well. So I don't know if it's going to be 20 bill, excuse me, bill, but 20 billion, I think, could be possible, man. It could be 15, could be 12, 20 maybe at some point. If we get close, we win a chip. I mean, the New York Knicks, they're the sleeping giant, man, in world sports right now. And we're right there, fam. Now's the time to jump on. Keith says, yes, we can't play zone with Cat either. He would really get cooked. Yeah, I would really love the new coach to go offense defense. Like, great example, game one, man. I hate to bring it up again, but 2 minutes and 50 on the clock. The Knicks are up by 14. We don't need any offensive players on the floor. Like, Cat shouldn't have been out there, and that's on Thibodeau, in my opinion. I know Cat deserves some blame. Like, he's out there. He's a grown man. He's earning, his contract. But everybody knows he's not a defensive player. Why is he out there? You're up 14. Thibodeau was just obsessed with closing lineups with the starters. Even game 6 against Boston, when the crowd was chanting goodbye. The Knicks starters were still on the floor. Boston had already emptied their bench. Thibodeau still had the starters out there. He still had OG out there. It was crazy. That's some of the things that got Thibodeau fired. But hopefully, yeah, when the new coach comes in, they could recognize that at the very least, when the other coach empties his bench, empty your bench. When you have a giant lead, you don't need to score any points. Just put your best defensive lineups out there. I think if we could replay that game all over again in my mind with 2:50 to play, get everybody that's not a defender off the floor and just put a defensive only lineup. And who cares? We don't even need to score another point. You just need to get stops and hit free throws. Just get stops and hit free throws and we win that game. Brunson and Cat shouldn't have even been on the floor. And that was on Thibodeau. Buzzer says, CT, how about this? Our 50th pick plus Rokas, Naji, Cam for a mid-first round pick. I don't see anyone giving us a first rounder for those guys, man, but I'll take the 50th pick. I'll take Naji, and I do think Rokas, I think he's probably going to be out in a trade, I think in a separate deal, fam. But yeah, keep it coming. You guys keep it buzzing. Yeah, you got the MSG TV as well. So yeah, look, 10 billion is crazy. With that said, I think the Knicks are going to keep going up. Now, to focus a little bit more on the draft and the prospects, guys. But actually, one more free agent before we do that. With the squeeze in Orlando, the fact that Desmond Bane has landed via that massive trade, looks like Gary Harris, a veteran that can shoot, didn't have a lot of success in Orlando, but it looks like he is going to be available for around that $5 million price range. What do you guys think? Would you have any interest in Gary Harris? Not top of my list. I mean, I would definitely look at Luke Kennard. I would look at Gary Trent. But if those options start to fall, maybe we could get a Gary Harris as a reclamation on a vet's minimum. I think he would be a solid vet's minimum guy. I don't know about the 5.7, but he could be a name that's available now as the Magic have declined his $7.5 million option. Some of the other names listed by James Edwards of The Athletic: Luke Kennard, Al Horford, Spencer Dinwiddie, Trey Lyles, and our guys, DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet. For me, yeah, DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet, come on back. Veterans minimum, you know the drill. You should play more without Thibodeau. That should entice those guys to come back. Trey Lyles, I wouldn't mind him as a minimum. We'll see what plays out with maybe a training camp deal. Maybe James Nnaji takes that spot. Spencer Dinwiddie, look, I appreciate his game. He can score, he can drive, slash. I mean, I don't like him, man. I just don't like him. Obviously, it goes deep. But we've got to look at other guys like Luke Kennard and obviously Al Horford. He might retire or he might come back. We'll see how that all plays out. But in terms of the draft, right, and these guys that have been linked and mocked to the New York Knicks, right? With the latest news today about James Nnaji, right, I think it possibly decreases the need to bring in another big man if he hits. But I think if Janai Broom from Auburn is on the board, I think at 50, you got to take him, right? He's a ready-made skill set in terms of he's got some offense in the post game, can finish with both hands. He would bring bona fide dog to this roster. He's got that dog in him, as reported by Kevin O'Connor as well in his mock for Yahoo. You know, he's tenacious, especially in the paint, can block shots as well, can play power forward and center. He's mocked at around about the 35 to 50 range. I mean, I don't know if he's going to slip all the way to 50, but if the Knicks can trade up, I would definitely look at trying to get Janai Broom. The other couple of guys on the screen are more two-way guys that are worth tapping into. Prospects. Rocco Zakarski showed up in some consensus mocks. He's a 7'4" demon as a shot blocker as well. A drop center, a lob threat. Doesn't do much else. Can't really come out on the perimeter and switch. He's too big. But he's got a good touch. He's got a good touch around the basket as well. So he's not a stiff offensively, but he's young. He's only 18, 19, and he's worth taking a flyer on and developing. You know, his upside's as high as it is with Zach Edey, you know, and if you can get him late in the second round, that's something that you could look into. Maybe, you know, they've looked at him in workouts. The third guy is Izan Ilmanza, another Spanish big. He's more versatile at 6'11". He's a good athlete. He can play power forward. He can play center. Not a traditional kind of center, but more of a modern day center in terms of switchable. Can move his feet. Is slim. Can come out on the perimeter a bit, as well as the other guy, Lachlan Olbrich, out of Australia too. He's a very versatile combo power forward center as well, like a Sabonis type. A more athletic version of Billy Hernan Gomez. Got a nice soft touch. Defensively is where he struggles a little bit, but he's more skilled offensively. Like he's got real skills, can dribble, can finish above the rim. Like I said, a more athletic version of Billy Hernan Gomez. So those are some prospects we could look at, I think, late in the draft. What do you guys think? Yeah, Paula says, I don't like that Spencer Dumbwit. I like it. Also, as James Edwards says, there's a 40% chance that one of the usual starters is not on the roster come opening night. So before we hit on the wings, I'm not surprised to hear that. Like I said, the front office will be doing due diligence. If they could turn OG, McCall, possibly Mitch into more depth and not really hurt the roster from that standpoint, I think that'll be something that they look into. I think they want to get some more financial flexibility. The McCall Bridges extension is coming up. That could prompt a trade. We'll find out. But what do you guys think? I think 40% is a little high. I think he did qualify that and say, look, it does sound a little high. I would maybe put it at a 30%, but it just depends on what you can get. I've already said I would look at the Houston Rockets. They've got a lot of depth. I would look at the San Antonio Spurs, man. If you could send OG to the Spurs, and I know they would really like that deal, that would allow them to contend in the West. But if you can bring back a Devin Vassell and a Jeremy Sohan, maybe another younger piece, I mean, you know, that gives you a bit to work with in terms of some young athletic talent, some depth to the roster as well, and you're adding some ruggedness, some defense that you're losing with OG. What do you guys think? Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell. See if you can pry a pick, and you send them OG Anunoby to join Wemby and De'Aaron Fox out west. That's something I would look at. The Houston Rockets, if you can get Jabari Smith and another one of their wings, Tari Eason. I know Reed Shepherd, high draft pick. Emu Udoka hasn't been able to play him. Yeah, I see a couple guys. David says OG should be untouchable. Tay Mack salute says heck no. Please stop. Well, appreciate your opinion, man, but make your case, man. Why is OG untouchable? Last I checked, he's not an all NBA player. I mean, you know, I love the Knicks fan base. They form such a connection and attachment to players. I respect that. But at the same time, if you're not an all NBA player, you're not untouchable. So yeah, that's our roster right now. Look at the bench. It's full of rookies and vets minimum guys, and so we are in a pickle. So yeah, Tay says I'd rather trade McCall over OG. Yeah. I would agree, 100% agree with you. I do think OG is less expendable than McCall. The McCall one is one that I'm more hesitant with the extension coming up. I understand that you know, Brunson took the deal, you know, with the McCall Bridges move in mind, you know, and these guys obviously want to make a run, probably a 2, 3, 4 year run at it. I respect that. We'll see. You know, I like the continuity aspect. You know, if you guys say run it all back, I'm not mad at that. I'm not. You know, you flesh out the depth, a new coach. We'll see how it plays out, fam. This is interesting as well, guys. Jalen Brunson hasn't played for like almost a month, and he's still the third best player in the postseason right now, according to the global rating on Hoops Hype. You got Shea, the MVP, possibly the Finals MVP coming up, as Indiana and Oklahoma are about to kick off. We'll keep going for a minute, and I'll join the second half of that. But hopefully, OKC can close it out tonight, fam, in Indiana, in front of those fans, man. And Shea can get the Finals MVP. You got Jay Will, number 2. And you got the New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson, number 3. Hasn't played a playoff game for almost a month. Still the third best player in the playoffs. Cody says, I like those pieces. Would do it for Macau in a heartbeat. I would do the Macau for Kobe White deal. As I said earlier, those are just joining us, fam. Kobe White is soon to be a free agent. Looks like the Bulls have to decide whether to trade Giddey or trade Kobe White. The Knicks work Kobe White out. They're big fans, I know. He's CAA represented as well. He's the three-point shooter that this starting five really needs, fam, in my opinion. As I pull up that report, fam, here we go. For those that missed it earlier. Look, I'm not hating on Mikal. I'll be cool seeing him come back for a second year, hopefully with improvement though. But in my opinion, the juice just wasn't worth the squeeze. You know, you're talking about a $35 million guy. Unless he takes a major discount. And then, you know, I'll really respect that. But, I mean, the fact that we traded what we did and he comes in with a broke jump shot, like that, it was tough from the get-go. It got a little better. The defense was good in some stretches during the postseason. But that's what he's supposed to do. Like he's come in with a defensive reputation. He's supposed to be a plus defender. You know, so I'm not gonna like, you know, glaze somebody that's doing what they're supposed to do. If he's exceeding what he's supposed to do, then, you know, then we give him his praise. But he needs to kind of toughen up more defensively, in my opinion. I just don't know if he's the point of attack defender that you need next to a Jalen Brunson. Because let's not forget, guys, you're already working at a disadvantage when it comes to Jalen Brunson at the point guard spot. You need a really, really stout, strong, physical defender next to Jalen Brunson. I don't know if Mikal Bridges is that guy. Or, at the very least, if you're a deadly sharpshooter like Kobe White, then at least you could, you know, you could flame throw teams out of the league, you know, with shooting. Dusty says Mikal needs to take a pay cut if he wants to stay. D. Grant says OG is just a high-end role player. I feel like he's a bit more than that, but if he's not being utilized, then you're correct. You're correct. E. Harlem, salute, says OG isn't that guy, like he's not that untouchable. Yeah, I agree. It would have to be a really, really big trade, but I'd definitely be open-minded to see what you can get for the $42 million. Buzzer says, CT, what will it take to convince J. Kidd to ask to leave Dallas? Great question, man. I don't think it's going to take much. I think he already has the answers to that. He just has to do it. I feel like the Knicks just have to say, look, J. Kidd, you're our guy. Like, make it happen. We will give you the job. We will give you the bag. You will be the head coach. You will lead Jalen Brunson and these guys out here with your buddies, Casey Smith, in the medical room. Make it happen. And then we'll talk compensation with Dallas. I'm not going to lie, though. I'm worried about that compensation element, Buzzer. You know, in terms of like, I think, let's say J. Kidd says, yeah, I want out. And they say, look, all right, we're not going to give you the extension. Let's do it. All right, Knicks, we want a first. We want, you know, multiple seconds. You know, it's going to get tricky. So at this stage, man, I just go with Taylor Jenkins. What do you guys think? Webb says, don't we own the rights to another big man from Africa that played on the France team? Yeah, we do. We do, 100%. His name is, man, he's a guy, there's a couple of French prospects. We had that last guy, Labayri. Yeah, he didn't come. We picked up another guy, but we do have Hugo Besson as well, the French guard, fam. He might even come over for Summer League. I'll see if I can knock on some doors and find out what's happening with Hugo Besson. He was drafted not that long ago, fam. I actually got to see him a little bit because he played for the New Zealand Breakers in the NBL. combo guard. I think he's a bit more versatile than Rokas. You know, we'll see how that plays out. Man, I would love us to get Gary Trent, but it looks like he is going to stay in Milwaukee. Dirty Dancer says, unless it's a clear upgrade, I'd like to see Wingstop with the proper coach that will utilize them correctly first. And that's completely rational and definitely an element to this whole coaching situation. It's like, you know, what can we get? You know, what can we get out of that new coach offensively? You know, is exciting to see. I think even just being more open-minded to play different lineups, you know. I mean, that's the start. That's the bare minimum, you know. Thibodeau should have been playing Hart less, Deuce more. He should have been playing Huck Porty with Cat before Mitch got back. And then when Mitch got back, he should have played Mitch with Cat before the playoffs began to see what that looked like. He didn't do it enough. And he didn't do it until, you know, obviously the third round when he changed his starting lineup. So my head hurts thinking about how many mistakes Thibodeau made. Look, I respect his, you know, insistence on doing it his way because he's had a winning record. You know, he does it his way. But look, ultimately, I just don't think it was a good fit. You know, moving forward now, you know, we have to be more open-minded. And look, the penny drops the moment we're going to get a new coach. We have a stash guy say, I want to come over. You know, his agent, he makes the call immediately. I'm coming to Summer League. You know, maybe these things are really connected. You know, you see a lot of players talk about they don't want to play for Thibodeau. You know, certain players are cool with it. I get it. But you can't ignore the noise. You know, we'll see if it actually becomes something bigger right now. Right, so we had Udoka get the extension. The main topic of today, man, James Naji. We're going to get a good look at Summer League. Let's see what we can do, man. Him and Huck Porty together. It should be on lock. The paint should be a no-enter zone when it comes to Huck Porty and James Naji. Yeah, Cody's with it. Kobe White for Macau. Let's go. I think the issue is the Bulls. They have to swap out Kobe White's extension and have to pay Macau his extension. But yeah, I'm cool with Macau. I am. I just think Kobe White's a better fit for the roster, man, with the shooting. But if Macau can get his 3-point shooting back up, I think that'll be great. Tay-Max says Kobe White's nice as well. What's good, J Dragon? I appreciate you rocking with us. I see you in the comments as well earlier today. James Nnaji may be big. I've checked his stats. I'm not impressed. Yeah. So I saw your comment earlier today as well. There's a couple of things to keep in mind with these players in Europe. Number one is it's similar to the NBA where the coaches prefer the veterans, especially if they're at a big club like a Barcelona. You've got your Billy Hernan-Gomez, Jan Vesely, and they've got a coach that needs to win to keep his job. And you've got all these other guys that are trying to feed their families and pay their mortgage. So the other thing is to note is that there's 40-minute games in Europe. The games are like FIBA. They're shorter games. Stats don't jump off the page. But the other thing is there's no defensive 3-second violation. So the centers can park themselves in the lane full time. But they should be getting more rebounds. They should be getting more block shots because of the no defensive 3-second violation. So that is something to look out for as well. But I'm a believer that a player needs consistent minutes. If they're not getting consistent minutes, it's hard to really look at the stats. Like, good example, Quentin Grimes. ain't no one glazing Quentin Grimes when he was putting up 6 points, 3 rebounds and 1 steal in 9 minutes. The second he got to Philadelphia and started to put up 40-point games and started to hit consistent threes because he was getting the reps, then people started to pay attention. Not a lot a player can do with like 8 minutes, 9 minutes. It's hard, it is, especially when you're coming in and, you're expected to produce. It's a pro league. It's not G League in Europe. Like I said, they're grown men trying to feed their family. So I am a bit more cautiously optimistic about a guy like James Naji. But the good thing is we're going to get a first-hand view, and we're going to get to see what he can do. They don't teach size. I always say that. If you could be disciplined, which the scouting report says this guy is disciplined, he's not going to pick up like 4 fouls in 3 minutes like Cat. He stays disciplined. He can move his feet. I think he's a better drop coverage center than Huck Porty is right now. Huck Porty's still got some of those discipline problems with fouling a little. But with James Naji, the offense isn't really a whole lot right now. But he has been getting mentorship from some big-time big-time players, Sergi Baca, Marc Gasol, over in Spain as well. So, look, he has the ability to come in, man, at Summer League and just dominate, right? If he's not going to dominate Summer League, I'll have reservations, because if a guy's been playing pro overseas for 4 years, at his size, with a 7-foot height, without shoes, a 7'5" wingspan, and a 9'4" standing reach, yeah, he should be a double-double in Summer League, right? But yeah, outside of next week, right, the wing targets, you got NBA.com have looked at Eric Dixon, who's a Villanova guy. It's easy to see the links to us. RJ, he could be a prospect that the Knicks like in their own backyard as a two-way guy. I got a feeling that this draft pick will either be a two-way guy so they don't have to use a roster spot on, or they'll get lucky and somebody will slip that they think can actually make the roster. So I think they'll be intending to get a two-way guy to save some money, because the two-way contracts don't hurt the salary cap. And RJ is a perfect guy for a two-way. Alex Tui, similar, although I think he has a chance to make a roster spot. But Eric Dixon is a guy that would definitely make a roster spot, in my opinion. We'll see how that plays out. Yeah, I would like us to look at the guards in free agency. I think wings we could look at the draft. I think with the Naji thing, we might be okay with the bigs. What do you guys think? We've got the Huck Porty sophomore season, man. He could be... I mean, Huck Porty looked like he belonged in some of these major games. Think about he was doing all of that with lack of trust from Thibodeau. Was playing Jericho Sims ahead of him early in the season. Huck Porty would make one foul and then he would get benched. He would make one mistake, it'd be back to the bench. And so I hope that's not the case. I hope that if a player's in the rotation, give them 8 to 12 minutes, keep them those minutes so that they can get ready. They can stay consistent. And there are some guards though that if a guy like a Kobe Brea, a Hunter Salas, a John Tonje, even Elijah Martin slip, that I think the Knicks will pull the trigger on that, and I think they'll try to move up even as well. Dirty Dancer says per 36, he's basically a double-double guy, 4 stocks a game. His stats are more than fine, I think, for his role. Yeah, I think you've got to look at the role he would have on the Knicks. Talking about James Naji, I think that he's going to play, you know, maximum 15 to 20 minutes max, best case scenario. You know, that's what you've got Mitchell Robinson here to do. Johnny says F targets, F Dolan. D Grant, CT, you say OG is more than a high-end role player. How so? He never made an all-star or been in the conversations of any awards. Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the sample size. Just say that, you know, when Brunson was out, you know, I think those 15 games when Brunson was out, I think we saw a real two-way demon. You know, there was a lot of 20-point games, 2010 games. I think the potential is there for him with the volume and the reps. I just think OG is just too passive. You know, I like the post-ups. I think he needs to get aggressive, just OG. He's a softly spoken guy. He's quiet, but that you see that rage come out when he slams it down and he finishes in transition. I want to see OG just take that, you know, come out and just show that he's a two-way force, you know, and be a demon, be more aggressive, demand the ball, post the smaller guy up, take the smaller guy to the rack, right? The thing about with Brunson, and I know it's been isocentric, absolutely, but Brunson's a guy where if you demand the ball, you could get it. You could get the ball, you know. I just think some of the other guys are just happy standing around and letting Brunson do his thing. You know, you have to be a dog, an alpha, and get in position, say, get me the ball. When OG was doing the dribble handoffs, top of the key, getting downhill, I like that with Brunson. OG is one of our best screen setters as well. We need to see more pick and roll with OG in the action. So I think we can get more out of OG. It's just whether or not, you know, he's willing to really, you know, be aggressive. I feel like OG is just kind of wasted in the corner, you know. Like, to me, a corner guy should be, you know, a wing in terms of a shooting guard wing. I'm looking at OG as a power forward wing where he could use his physical size, but he does have to tighten his handle. As Dirty says, yeah, OKC needs to attack Halliburton's peg leg. Yeah, let's hope they close it out tonight. Buzzer says, CT, do me a favor, post a survey right now with the coaching choices and let the chat vote. I got you, fam. Let's pull this one up. So what should be the options? Taylor Jenkins, J Kidd, Mike Brown, and Johnny Bryant. Let's do those four right now. I'll pull that up in the chat and put a poll right now. We're going to get this popping live with these options. What are your choice for the Knicks head coach? I may as well cast my vote first while I'm talking and also putting the poll in. Look, I would still lean towards Kidd as a top option for a couple of reasons. The familiarity with Brunson has got to be big time. He's just an elite basketball mind. And also, you know, he's built for a big situation. You know, J Kidd's been in Brooklyn. I feel like, you know, with J Kidd, to survive in New York, it's a whole different situation. And with that said, I think it's a case of you really need to understand what you're working with. Point guard coach, point guard player is the best player too. So yeah, the poll is up, ladies and gentlemen. Cast your vote. Out of the four guys, Taylor Jenkins, I think leader in the clubhouse, is the realistic option. We do have Mike Brown, obviously well-credentialed, respected, only the second guy to interview officially. J. Kidd, we know that's kind of the New York Knicks preferred choice, side option right now that's trying to become the main option. And then you've got Johnny Bryant as well, who's still with Cleveland. I think he's got to be upset that he didn't get the Phoenix job, although it's not exactly an ideal job, but it's his first job in the league as a head coach, so he would happily take it. But I think if he was to come back for another season with Cleveland, I don't think he would, be too upset. But obviously the New York Knicks role, they're looking for experience. I think that just counts against Johnny. I think, maybe in the interview he could win the job and wow them. But I just think him and Mike Woodson are more of the kind of the second tier options right now. And obviously the experience. I think Taylor Jenkins ticks all of the boxes, and Mike Brown ticks all of the boxes as well. The thing about Mike Brown is I like the accountability element. For me, you got to be prepared to bench your best player. You got to be prepared to bench a veteran. Like, look at Popovich. You got to bench, Tim Duncan down the stretch. Popovich used to just, pull all the starters out and say, "You're not giving me anything. Who's going to give me something?" And that's what Mike Brown is not afraid to do either. Right? With Tibbs, the leash was too long. With Hart, with Cat, sometimes Brunson even. Like I said, late down the stretch, there was games where Brunson shouldn't have been on the floor even for defensive purposes. So I feel like Mike Brown has the confidence, experience, and reputation that, he could deal with any potential conflict with that. So I'll be okay with Mike Brown or Taylor Jenkins. I'm slightly leaning towards Taylor Jenkins at this point for his offense. And obviously I like his ability to develop some of the younger players. Right. But yeah, it's exciting, man. I mean, I know this projected bench depth, isn't exactly going to blow people away, but all it takes is a couple of the guys to really step up, a couple of the guys to come back. I think it's a safe bet. Either Landry or DeLon Wright will have the choice to come back. Maybe they choose to explore other options. I think Anton Watson could be replaced on the two-way. Maybe you can give Marjon Beauchamp a chance to win a real roster spot as well. Don't forget, he was a lottery pick, first-round pick, not that long ago. Thibodeau, I think that's another one of the frustrations, that the front office would get these guys in and Thibodeau would just never play them. Marjon Beauchamp never got a chance. As far as I'm concerned, he could have done, just as much with Precious's minutes. Tyler Kolek, I think, has all the potential offensively. I like his potential to knock down the corner three as well, pull up three off the break, above the break. But my issue with Tyler Kolek is defense right now. What's his role going to be? I think Summer League's going to be eye-opening. He had a pretty dominant first year in Summer League. Closing games, he looked like one of the most heady players on the floor. Coming back as a sophomore, I think we'll see how Tyler Kolek can dominate in year two. The chemistry with Bacone Dardier, Huck Porty, the pick and roll should be They should be fire in Summer League, because not only those guys play Summer League together last year, they also played a lot of G League minutes together this year as well, and also some spot minutes in the regular season as well. But yeah, you got to be cutthroat. I'm looking at these younger guys like who's going to cut it, who can't. We might have to make some ruthless decisions for financial reasons, right? You can't carry all of these rookies in terms of Huckporty, McCullough, Bacombe, and Kolick if they're not going to play or not going to get opportunities to play much. For me, probably the most ready-made guy is Huckporty, but second is Kevin McCullough, because, like I said, Tyler Kolick can handle himself offensively. Kevin McCullough is a two-way player. He's a super senior coming out of Kansas. Slipped in the draft due to injury, but I think Kevin McCullough is 6'6", essentially a dog defensively. You see the guys like Andrew Nemhard, Aaron Neesmith, and the things that they're doing in the playoffs right now. Right, Kevin McCullough could be that for us. He was a very, very, very stout defender in college. So yeah, we have to make something out of these guys, fam. As Buzzer says, everybody vote. Appreciate it. Keep the interactivity. D. Grant says Mike Brown coached prime LeBron and could not win a chip. So what does that tell you? I think as long as he doesn't win a chip as a head coach, there'll always be question marks. But there's a question marks over Taylor Jenkins as well. There's question marks over a Jason Kidd, a Johnny Bryant as well. With Brown, that Cleveland roster is obviously a bit different. But yeah, ultimately, I think we just need a coach to get the best out of the roster. I think the roster is going to be the thing that gets us over the hump, and the talent out here. The David Smith is in the house now. So you're talking about Tibbs being fired is awesome. Great day in Knicks history. Brunson Hero Ball Hart cost us the Pacers series. Look, a lot of things cost us the Pacers series, David. I can't really narrow it down to one or two things. I think styles make fights. Indiana, it was a contrasting style, but game one, essentially, as Rick Carlisle phrased it, was fluky. Now, I respect Rick Carlisle, I know he gets a lot of, he trolls and, but I like his honesty, he talked about, he didn't gloat, he talked about game one was a fluke, and it was, right? You do that 10 more times and maybe that never happens again. So many bounces of the ball, referee decisions went against the Knicks, but I'm of the mindset where you got to control what you can control. You got to control the controllables, as Karl Anthony Towns said in one of the post games. And for me, Thibodeau saw Aaron Neesmith get hot. He didn't call a timeout. He saw Cat sagging back in drop coverage. He didn't get Cat off the floor. He sat there, stood there on the sideline and watched it happen as well. When he physically was able to change, he was able to change what was happening. We weren't. We're sitting there watching, the train wreck unfold. With Thibodeau, I would have got everyone that can't play defense off the floor and protect the lead. Literally the equivalent of like parking the bus, as they say in soccer, European football. They say park the bus. You're up by 2 goals. You don't need to score again. Just stop the other team from scoring. Good night, Paula. Salute to you, and big up. Great to have you with us tonight. David says Pacers had no one to guard Cat. Yeah, offense was a big issue, no doubt. Weren't getting the best out of our guys in terms of that and lineups. Tibbs would watch a few things and then he wouldn't adjust in terms of I saw game 4 in Indiana, and the double big lineup just wasn't working. I mean, Indiana are the fastest, most relentless team, and you're going to play 2 bigs out there that can't get back in transition. When Cat falls to the ground, it's a 5-on-4, fast break waiting to happen. But Tibbs in game 6, he looked at the data and he ran it back again with the double big lineup. That's where I would have put Deuce McBride as the starter in game 6. But, you know, who am I, man? I'm just a pundit. Ultimately, the coach has to know what to do. But, man, I feel like we had the talent to beat Indiana for sure, fam. So, new season ahead. I'm excited to run it back with some consistent, lineups, continuity, and a coach with some new schemes, fam. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Naji can bring. As we look at the poll, during the answer says Mike Brown is 0% right now, fam. So let's take a look. We've got Taylor Jenkins leading at 50%, Jay Kidd 31%, Mike Brown 0%, and Johnny Bryant sitting on 19%, fam, with 32 votes right now. So Taylor Jenkins, the people's choice right now, with Jay Kidd right behind that. Now, it might be Jay Kidd, you just don't think that's realistic. Maybe everyone just wants that realistic choice, man, just to get it done with, right? I'm done with all these reports, seeing the franchise try to get dragged through the mud right now. Just get us our head coach, focus on summer league and free agency, and I'll be happy. Yeah, Keith says, well, we couldn't stop anybody with Cat giving up more points than he actually scores. So I get the double big lineup from that perspective. I think Cat needs to be a power forward. It's just, again, Indiana is just such a different, unique matchup, for the New York Knicks. Look, the turnovers killed us as well. You take care of the ball, we have a chance to beat Indiana. Even with our slow half-court ISO offense, we still had the chance to beat Indiana if we took care of the ball and just hit free throws. None of this would have happened if we just hit free throws. None of this would have happened if the referees as well called that goaltend on Miles Turner. Cardiac says, CT in chat, would y'all trade OG and Bridges for LeBron? Just asking. Would I trade OG and Bridges for LeBron? I would say no, man. LeBron, I feel like this is a year where it's a steep decline, fam. Maybe 2 years ago, LeBron, but I think we're headed for a steep decline. Same for KD, 37. I think the name is better than the game right now. There's a lot of people saying, hell no, these OGs are done for, man, right now. We're moving in a new light with a new way. Look, to KD, we weren't cool. We weren't sexy back then. He chose Brooklyn. But guess what? We rebuilt this thing from the ground up, man. We built it up from the ground up. It's satisfying to do it that way. Well, we didn't really do it through the draft, but we kind of did a middle build, which is still difficult to do. But we had to use a lot of draft assets. And we had to hit on a few draft picks as well. Deuce McBride, Mitchie Robb. Let's not, a lot of people talk about the Knicks, Knicks follies and the Knicks, misses, Tyrese, Obi, all of that. Obi was the coaching issue, but hey, Quentin Grimes looked like a fair pick. He's about to get paid. It's just, unfortunately, he, when the Knicks pulled off a few moves, he kind of went into his shell and got spooked, did Quentin Grimes. And then he regathered his form when he, went to a losing club to get more minutes. But in the case of Deuce, the case of Huck Pority, you know, guys in the second round, Mitch. We'll see if Kolek and Dardier can hit, but there are some potential, you know, home runs there. I would say, you know, Deuce McBride, second round was a home run hit. Mitchell Robinson was definitely a home run hit. You know, to get a guy from the second round that ends up on a 4-year contract like Mitch is exactly what you hope for. Dirty says, last thing I want is another coach that ignores lineup data numbers like Mike Brown. Yeah, that's the turbulence I talked about earlier with Keon Ellis. But I do think he's more flexible, right? He is more open-minded. He just has to be kind of sold on that. Whereas Thibodeau might just shut the door on that, I think. And the front office just had enough. You know, he wasn't willing to play ball. In the case of Mike Brown, he got that dysfunctional team to the second seed and got Coach of the Year twice. Was unanimous in 2023 as well. So he can elevate, you know, a more average roster to being a top seed. Johnny says, CT, seriously, Ari, Kolek, would you give up 10 assists per game to prevent whatever Kolek's lack of D would lead to? Yeah, I would. You know, 10 assists is, I mean, that's elite. Get me any ball player that does something elite, and you find a way. You could live with it. Whether they're an elite shooter, elite, you know, dime dropper, elite rim finisher. The thing is with Kolek, you can find ways to hide him. You know, you could play a little bit of zone. You know, if they could hide Tyrese Halliburton, if teams can hide, you know, Damian Lillard, teams can hide Trae Young, you can damn for sure hide Tyler Kolek. I mean, he ain't, you know, he ain't a good defender for sure, but he ain't a sieve. You know, he could, you know, get in his hand in the cookie jar. He could strip some guys. He could take charges. Yeah, again, you just got to find a way to try to hide him. You know, we get some size around him. I think Kolek's perfect in his role. It's a backup. Backup point guards don't get exposed as much because, you know, most benches are run and gun. You know, you're getting up, you're getting down, you're getting the, you know, the score ticking up. It's the starting guys that's more concerning because they're on the floor in crunch time, right? Now that's a whole different dicey situation with Brunson, with Karl Anthony Towns on the floor in crunch time. That's when you seriously, you know, gotta you know, find a way to make that work. But Tyler Kolek as a backup point guard, I think he'll make a career out of that. You know, look at TJ. Look at TJ McConnell, man. Hard work. He's just got to develop that three-point shot, get to the paint, get some more paint touches. Jean-Marc, great to see you. What's the buzz around Naji? I remember you are one of the first who talked about Huck. Yeah, appreciate you for giving the props as well. In terms of Naji, I'm not as familiar with him as I was with Huck Porty. Huck Porty, I had the benefit of being in the gym and actually seeing him change games in the NBL professionally. But with James Nnaji, you know, I defer to the draft scouts. The experts suggest that his upside, his defensive tools and abilities to deter, you know, offenses is elite. Like, it's better than Huck Porty's. It's on the Mitchell Robinson level. And that's amazing if you can get that in the second round. So what it is right now, fam, it's potential. He flashed that potential in Europe as well. He suffered a few injuries and a few issues politically in terms of, like, just, you know, club politics with playing vets ahead of him and, you know, the funk of those European lineups. You know, they like to do a lot of hockey their hockey substitute lineups in the European game. It's like you're in for 5 minutes, then you're out, and then you're back in for 3 minutes, and then you're out. So they do stagger those lineups a lot. And so I think this is a great move. I think this is the right move for him and his camp to come over and play on a two-way contract, play G League minutes, compete in Summer League, just play. You know, in Europe, the problem is his main club, Barcelona, they're a massive club. That they're a win now at all costs. You know, they've got bills to pay, they've got mouths to feed, and he doesn't fit there as a 21-year-old. So they loaned him out. They loaned him out to some smaller clubs. But the problem, the irony with that was those smaller clubs are also in the same league that have to win to survive. You know, they have to play lineups to try to win games. Otherwise, their coach will get fired. And those veterans on those lower clubs want to win as well. Otherwise, they'll get frustrated and lose their jobs. So it was just a complete mess. He needs the G League. He needs no pressure. He needs minutes. And he needs to maybe be on a two-way. So I think, you know, they made the right decision. Come over to the US, find some opportunities to play where, you know, where losing, winning is inconsequential. He just needs to play. And I think we'll see more of his potential come out, fam. But yeah, the Europe thing, it ain't all it's cracked up to be for these prospects, fam. Look at Rokas. He had to leave Barcelona as well because they're a win now club, and he had to go to Israel. I don't know what Rokas is doing right now, but yeah, it's tough. Yeah, Keith says, I think Brunson, good news that he won't have the same mindset as Morant. He might be more open-minded to changes. I feel like Brunson's flexible. I think Brunson ran Tibbs' offense, like that was Tibbs. I think what we saw from Brunson was Tibbs' isocentric offense, man. He did it with, you know, with D Rose. He did it with you know, the other guys. He did it with Nate Robb. All of those guys. Yeah, Wayne, I like this as well. Collett can be better than McConnell because of his shooting ability. Yeah, he's already a better shooter above the break. Like you said, 100%. And look, anytime he's given the opportunity to showcase against his peers, like G League peers or, you know, college showcase, he's excelled. He's excelled against his peers. He was the MVP of the G League showcase, is Tyler Kolek. So pound for pound, when he plays against anyone who's 23, 24 or under, in a similar spot, he can thrive. He just has to take that next step now against the elites, you know, carve out that role, hopefully as the backup. So we'll take a quick check-in on the votes. Now, Taylor Jenkins surging up to 58%. J Kidd at 26%. Mike Brown has some votes coming in at 4%. And Johnny Bryant coming in at third at 17%. So we've got Brown at 4%, Johnny Bryant 17%, J Kidd 26%, and Taylor Jenkins is the leader right now at 53% right now, as things are fluid. We've got over 120 people rocking out with us right now, man. 50 likes so far on the stream. Smash that like button, get the buzz popping, and plenty more to come right now. Big day in the news cycle with the James Naji situation. Going to bring you guys more updates as I continue to do. Some things popping right now in the off season. Draft next week. We'll be live during the draft. Like I said, I won't be surprised if the Knicks take that pick. I think they will select a pick. I see a lot of people think that they'll trade out. But I do think that they can easily make the pick and just stash them, or they can put them on a two-way, and so it doesn't take up salary. Or if somebody they really like slips and they think that they can make the real roster, they will move up, or they will take that swing and pick those guys up. But all eyes are on the depth. How can the New York Knicks get more out of, or play more of these guys? There's going to be a lot more news coming through for Summer League. We don't know who's going to coach Summer League yet. Probably going to be one of the assistants of the guy that eventually gets the job. It might be somebody internally. But I think the Knicks are quite lackluster with announcing their Summer League squad. They usually wait until after free agency begins. So we're probably going to have to wait till, after the first week of July. So Summer League will officially commence on July 10 to July 20. Vegas Summer League will commence. So we'll probably get the Summer League roster full confirmation after the first week of July. But the Knicks will soon to be able to negotiate with their own free agents coming up. And also June 30 can negotiate with outside free agents with a verbal agreement as well. So free agency is almost here, guys. It's around the corner. A lot more things coming down the pipe. I'm excited by some of the moves coming up, moving ahead with these guys as the Knicks are solidifying their depth. And we've got the draft coming up too. Excited to talk about that. But of course, the coaching search is the biggest. The top domino that has to fall. And then the Leon Rose and the front office scouts will continue to do their thing. They never stop. The Knicks have some of the biggest scouting teams out of all the teams over the world right now. They've got scouts in Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa, you name it right now. People watching James Naji overseas, put in the word, bring him over. Let's see, like I said, that French prospect might come. Hugo Besson. Let's see if we hear anything about that. Rokas already said he is not going to come to Summer League. He's waiting for the real deal. If the Knicks are prepared to actually sign Rokas. I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, Rokas hasn't been in the league yet, so theoretically, they could give Rokas a $1 million rookie second round pick rookie deal for $1 million. That could save money as well if they do like what they see, but something tells me they're not sold on Rokas, I think they would have brought Rokas over, I think, if they could. You got Tyler Kolek here already. I mean, you gotta pick one, man. You gotta prioritize. So, with that said, let's end the poll, fam. With Jenkins the leader at 52%, J Kidd 24%, Johnny Bryant moving up to 18% now, and you got Mike Brown moving up to 6% as well. Fam, I'm gonna go cop the rest of this game 6. Let's hope that the Thunder are the NBA champs after tonight, man. We'll be back on the weekend as well to chop the latest up with everyone. Peace, blessings, health, happiness, and let's go Knicks. The streets are buzzing.